Bunch of you are muted, so if you want to unmute, by all means, be my
Doing
guest.
great, thank you.
Okie doke. So you've got your deal, and now you're going to be negotiating for the next couple of weeks. Okay, and realistically, there's got to be some give and take. You just can't think that you're going to crush the other side and get everything, whether you're representing the buyer or the seller. There's got to be some give and take. Okay, and it's important because if you got to remember that we're part of the sideshow. You know, like I said, you've got the two principals, you got the escrow officer, but I'm not talking about the escrow officer now. Then you've got the agents. The agents that thump their chest are the ones that screw up. And a deal can very easily go away. Once, you know, I mean, when you're first getting started, the buyer, the contract, the way it's currently written, is buyer prohibitively favored. They have more of the contingencies than the seller does. The seller can just dig in and use that favorite word, no, okay, on requests and things like that. So it's really, really important that you understand there's got to be some give and take. Okay, I often find myself when I'm dealing on a deal that I say to the other agent, look, there's two principals in this deal, you know, so just don't think your client's going to get their way on everything. So we want to make sure that there's give and take. And to me, the real big thing is that know what's really important to your client. If you're representing the seller, know what's important to your seller. If it's a buyer, know what a must-have is. Okay, I mean, that's really what's important. Don't get caught up in the small stuff. Get caught up in the bigger items. So when you're negotiating, rule number one, be professional. Don't ever make it personal. The moment that you turn a negotiating session in personal and get too emotionally wrapped up, you're going to have a problem, because you're negotiating and your goal is that signed contract. And you've got to make sure that when you're moving forward, that you're balancing things out. Don't get caught up. Don't get caught up in trying to say, I'm going to hit a grand slam on this. And I don't care, you know, I don't care about the other side, because that's where you're going to run into problems. Okay. So control what you say, try and initially keep things close to the vest, but, you know, don't be a game player. Remember, at the end of the deal, even though you're in escrow, you're not getting paid. And you won't get paid until you reach the end of the line, which is closing. Okay, so it's a really important. So you've always got to, regardless which side of the table that you're representing, make sure that when you're talking to your client, you're constantly talking about what motivated them. You know, and there are some times where you're going to have to potentially say to them, hey, you know, if you're not totally in it, let's cancel. Let's not waste the other side's time. Well, no, let's see what they're going to do. Okay, that's not the end result here. The end result is you want to be able to walk away where you're hearing what the other side has to say. And by when I said don't reveal too much, go back to that word listen. Listen, 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 because you'll hear from them what really makes them want versus what they don't want, okay, or they don't think they're going to need. So keep your client's motivation close to your chest, and don't be a gabber. I know new agent syndrome, when your adrenaline's flowing, we tend to talk too much. Bite your tongue and see if you can take a half step back, so that way when you get through it, you'll understand as you're continuing to take baby steps through it, because I don't want you to get too attached to something where potentially your emotions are going to override you. That's something you definitely do not want to happen, because if you've done a couple of transactions or you've done over 1,000 transactions, it's always the same. You're not going to get everything you want. You don't have to feel like you have to step on the other side with a grand slam. Singles and doubles are good. Okay, so let's talk about common points of negotiation. I want you to look at page 13. Page 13. Okay? Take a look at that page and tell me, because we'll go round robin again. Tell me where you think two of the real key points are going to be on negotiating. Take a minute or two, look this over, and let me know your thoughts personally when I call you out on where you think major points of negotiation are going to really come into play. Take a minute or two, go through that list on page 13, because I think this is really important.
Peter, it's
Yep.
Sarah. Sorry. Is
Hi,
there a
Sarah.
booklet that maybe didn't
Yeah,
get?
if you can reach out to Whitney right now,
Okay.
she'll email you it.
Okay.
Okay, and Whitney's on the call right now, so she'll send that over to you. Okay, who wants to take a stab at it going forward to start to, what they feel two major points of contention are going to be during a deal? Who wants to start off?
Well, I didn't see these specifically listed, or maybe I just didn't pick up on it, but I was thinking like appraisals and contingencies.
Okay, contingencies are good, and appraisals are contingencies. So
Okay, yeah.
now when you talk contingencies, Jenna, give me a little idea of what you mean by, points of negotiation with contingencies.
Well, I mean, if you give an offer and with, I don't know, a 17-day close or something, then maybe you would lower it to a 10-day close. Or if you had an appraisal period, you could also lower that to like a 3-day appraisal period or a 10-day appraisal period or whatever, just depending on what you would negotiate with the seller.
Ask you this. Are you talking about an all cash deal that it's going to close in 10 days? Or is there going to be a loan?
Well, in like 10 days would probably be an all cash deal.
Right, because you'll never get a deal done with a loan in 10 days.
Right.
The appraisal won't be called for until the lender has conditional approval for the loan before an appraisal will even be ordered. And then from there, it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 days for the appraisal to happen. But that's a good one. Okay. Who else?
Okay.
I was thinking price and terms.
As far as what, Jason?
Well, just because of the current market, price being something that's a huge factor as you're going into, before you go into escrow, whether it's all cash or, counter offering 50,000 above an all cash, or however you're going to shape that out. And then terms, because of the contingencies and potentially lack thereof and stuff like that.
Okay. It's a good one. Who else wants to take a stab at this? We're on page 13, and I'm looking for what you think are going to be 2 points of contention in negotiation, which are going to be big ones.
I think repairs and also closing costs.
How are you going to, repairs is huge. That's where you're doing a lot of horse trading and you're going back and forth. Tell me how you think you're going to negotiate on closing costs.
Just in terms of who is covering what, if you're going to try to get the seller to cover any of the closing costs that would normally be taken up by the buyer if it's like their first time and they don't have the cash to do it.
Okay, bad, not bad. That's definitely something that you can ask for a credit or some kind of a rollback on. Who else?
I would say perhaps the closing dates and the price of the, I would say the closing date because they might have a pending date that they need to have this all said and done with. So they, some people are like, well, I need to be out of my lease to come into this new home by this date. I need it to be closed on such and such date.
Okay.
Price, I think, is just always a big one.
Price is usually the starting point, Okay, good ones, good one. Who else?
I would say the closing date as well.
Okay. Let's go back and talk about repairs, okay? Because that was a really good one. Tell me what you're thinking as far as for repairs. How does that work? Hi, Luz. How are you?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
So with repairs, I think that you would have the seller cover the buyer's closing costs instead of actually doing the repairs. Would that be an easier way to get?
So in other
Credited
words,
to-
get a credit in lieu of repairs?
Yes.
Okay, that's one way. Who else? That's one way. That was a good one. Who else? Come on, we're talking about repairs here.
Perhaps the repairs have to be done before like the money will be transferred over to like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So just skip me for a minute. Let me process my thought for a minute.
Who wants to take a shot? How are you going to get around? Buyer did an inspection. There's a whole long list of repairs or recommended items that need to be addressed. Let's talk about the back and forth or the give and take that you have to do on this. Don't sweat the small stuff. Go after the bigger items. And the best example I can give you on that is a deal I'm doing right now in a condo where the HVAC is completely not working. Okay, and the husband is all over that, and the wife is worrying about light switches or a GFCI plug or a cabinet hinge that seems to be loose. Don't sweat the small stuff. Go after the big ticket items because you don't want your buyer to inherit something like that. And the seller originally said, well, I'll just give you, I'll find out what the cost will be, but I'll just credit you that. No, you're not going to get a clip because you want that air conditioning and heating system working. The MLS didn't say that it wasn't working or that it was defective or it was shot. You want stuff like that working. The small stuff, a knob, a cabinet knob or a cabinet, hinge, that's different. Okay, you can bring in a handyman to do stuff like that. Big items, if the floor is popping up or if it's uneven, you want the other side to make sure that they take care to do that. So when you're getting ready to present, make sure that you prepare. And how do you want to address each and everything? So know what your goal is. The goal is to get past this and find, common ground between the buyer and seller. So it's really, really important that you know your client. And what's your client's threshold for pain? Where are they going to be? So that you have to make sure that you're going to understand your client's goals and wants. What are the must-have? By that I mean the wants in moving forward on that. So you have to think ahead. How do I think the other side is going to handle that? How are they going to react when they see it? So it's important that you set clear expectations for the client you're representing. Keep them apprised and say, look, they're not going to go for all of this. That's why I'm saying, let's go after the big ticket item. Well, maybe they don't want to do anything, and all they're going to want to do is give us some money to throw at us to make us go away. Vanessa, do you have something?
No, sorry.
Okay. So it's really, really important that you're informed and that you have a really good rapport with the other agent. Because you're going to have to sometimes, in your own indirect way, apologize for your client's greed. Now, if it's the buyer, they're just asking for the sun, moon, and the stars. And if it's the seller's side greed, they're not going to do anything. You know, I'm selling it as is, and I think you're getting the house at a steal, so F off, because I don't care. Okay, and I'll give you another example. I had a client in Sherman Oaks a couple of months ago that I think I told you this when we first started. I wanted to list the house at $2,499,000, but because he watches all the, you know, he's all over the internet with Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com and watching some of those stupid shows, that he thinks he's smarter than me. He's in the insurance business. I'm in the real estate business. And I said, okay. I said, but this is where we're going to wind up selling. And I told him from day one, we should list anywhere from $2,429,000 to $2,499,000. But he wanted to come out at 2.879, almost 2.9. We didn't have a showing for the first month. Now, this was back in November, right? This was back last November. Market was good. We did not have a showing for the first nearly 45 days. Then he got a little nervous and he said, okay, you can go down to 2.65. And we finally had a showing. And they still told me at the showing it was overpriced. And he tried to make every excuse up or rhyme or reason and be combative on everything. Finally, he said, okay, let's go to 2.499, right? I told him that it would sell probably like around, you know, 2,429,000, 25 to 2,450,000. We wound up closing at 2.435. And I said to him, Brian, we could have been done with this 3 months ago. Well, you know, I'm not doing an effing thing to this house, nothing, because I'm giving the house away. And I said, okay. I said, you know, look, you've got a really good buyer, but if this is going to be your attitude, maybe we should just tell the buyer, this is our stance, blah, blah. And then he panicked. And he said, no, let's see how the inspection goes. And there were a ton of problems on the house. And he turned around to me, and I'm representing the seller, and he said, I'm not doing anything because I have to clear $500,000 on this. I have to. I said, well, just because you have to doesn't gonna mean that they're gonna take the house as is. To which he replied, well, why don't you real estate agents kick in? You're both making a lot of money. I said, that's nice. And then I used my typical, I said, I'd like to get a new insurance policy, Brian. Can you help me? Oh, absolutely. I said, good. You're going to pay for the policy. He didn't like that. He goes, I'm a little insulted by it. Of course he was. And I just said, I don't care. You went into my pocket. I'm going into yours. He goes, well, I have to get $500,000. I said, well, then the deal might cancel. And if in fact that happens, we're going to be back to square one. And he goes, well, I don't, you know, that's great. Now, I knew in my back pocket, he was building a house down in Corona Del Mar, okay? And he was getting down to the nitty gritty. He needed money. And I just dug in, and he wound up giving a $5,000 credit in lieu of repairs. And he wound up netting $491,000. So he didn't get his 500. He didn't get his 2.8, but he did get it sold. And the house was sold in 24 days from opening escrow to closing. So know what's going on. Be complicit what you have. make sure you do everything legally. Okay, if you start to panic or you lose sight of something, that's where you're going to run into big problems. Right? So I don't want to see that happening to you. Any questions so far? So do you think I was wrong for confronting and jostling with my own client over this? Or what's some of your thoughts on it?
Uh, Peter, I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Uh, like it seems to me like a lot of times, like whenever people are trying to sell, they like always want to sell it really high.
Yep.
Is it like in your experience, like I'd say like maybe 9 times out of 10, like the big part of it is setting their standards or expectations like a lot lower and more realistic and getting them comfortable? Because it seems like even after they said it, like the person you were talking to right now, it
Mhm.
seems like from my perspective, it seems like you did a really good job, but it would seem like him at the end was still probably slightly dissatisfied, even if you pretty much did everything possible.
Yeah. You're dealing with egos, and you're dealing with everyone who thinks they're smarter than a second grader. They know better than we do. Even though I do this for a living and he doesn't, he's still smarter than me. And actually said to me, agents, they're taking advantage of you. And I just turned a deaf ear. I let it go. But again, you're going to run into people that play that kind of crap. So you got to check your ego and make sure that you're going to be prepared. So, make sure that you're looking ahead and thinking. Okay, make sure you're thinking. So then you get down and you're negotiating and you're ready to present whatever phase you're negotiating on. Okay, make sure you're up front with the other agent. Let them know a response is coming or an offer is coming, however you want to look at it. But what you want to make sure you do is keep the other agent. Remember, they're not your enemy. Your enemy, a lot of times is your own client, because they don't feel that you're working hard enough. You're just trying to get it closed and things like that. Okay. So make sure that you pay attention to everything they say. If you don't listen, you're going to have problems. I'm telling you guys that right now. You will have problems. Why? Because the client's going to twist the story to make sure that they're not wrong. And they can always then blame it on you. So it's really, really important that you take the steps, pay attention to, the shrugging of the shoulders, the rolling of the eyes, however you want to look at it. Okay. So that way, when you're in the process of whether you're presenting the offer or you're negotiating during the escrow, just keep quiet. Let the other side really be able to marinate on it. Let them be able to suck it all in and find out, because they'll then tell you, if you're listening, what's really important for them. The same way you have your must-haves, so are they. So you're gonna want to do that. Third one, and I still to this day have trouble, is stay calm and relaxed. I'm all about, I don't want to see my client on either side get taken advantage of. But at the same time, I'm not going to let them dictate the entire deal, because that sucks. And right now, when you hear all of these stories about 15, 16, 17 offers, of course the seller's in control on that, because they've got the offers. And remember, until the property closes and it is sold, the seller is the rightful owner of the property. So you can't tell them, this is all it's worth and things like that. So you have to stay calm and relaxed. You actually have to be the grown-up in the room. Okay? Because you're focused on what your client wants. And because you've been listening, you want to make sure that you have the strongest offer that's out there, or of negotiating. So you want to give your version or your angle the best possible spin, so that you can totally see it. Okay, which I think is really important. You know, when you start getting into countering and you're negotiating, go to page 19, because this is a good one on page 19. Take a look at this for a minute or two. The nibbling, the hot potato, the good guy, bad guy, okay? Take a minute or two, look these over, and tell me where you think you're going to have trouble on which one, you personally, because that means it's something that you're really going to have to focus on and work at to figure it out. So take take a minute or two, page 19 on for the nibbling, hot potato, good guy, bad guy. And then we'll talk about why you think you're going to be like that. Take a minute or two. Okay, who wants to take a stab at the first one?
The one I was looking at is the hot potato one.
Okay, why?
I think I'll probably have a hard time with that one because like since I'm like still new, I think it's very easy to take advantage of the newer agents, like more experienced agents, and they could easily, see that. And sometimes like say with like doing the closing cost, that's something that I wouldn't know, so I have to like pick up on stuff like that. Like a lot of times the nibbling, I understand they're just kind of like, like they're like little by little trying to see what they can get. So like I can kind of get a sense of that, and I can easily stop it in its tracks. And with the other one, the the friendly one and the bad one, I feel like I could deal pretty good with that one. But the other one, the hot potato one, I feel like in experience, it's probably easier to take advantage of the more inexperienced people.
Okay, good, excellent. Who's next? Same question. Which
I
one?
would say good guy, bad guy might give you some problems.
Mhm.
Okay, why?
Depending on the situation, one I have right now is the wife wants to sell, the husband doesn't. So it's this like song and dance of them not committing. And then how do you as an agent stay unbiased and, what's your role and whose side do you take?
Well, first of all, you never get in the middle of it. That's for sure, right? You never get in the middle of it. But you have to weigh out the options. You have, you can't just take one side. So you have to try and figure out, well, what's most important to you? What's most important to you? Do we want this really or not? Because I don't need practice killing a tree when I write out offers. So for me, it's important for you to come across where you want to be, and get them to be on the same page. Because if they're not, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else? Who wants to take a shot next?
Peter, I had a quick comment if you don't mind.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like I've noticed, I don't know if you had this situation, but I noticed like a lot of times in those roles, when
Yeah.
one's friendly and one isn't, it seems like the one that isn't as friendly, a little bit more stubborn. Like sometimes it's best to deal with them because the other one is a little bit more complacent and will kind of say yes to most things. So like whenever I would deal with those situations, I would deal more with the difficult one. And then once I get them on my page, the other one would kind of go, okay, they were actually happy that they were actually able to make a decision.
Right. Okay.
Just my 2 cents on that.
Yep, that's a good one.
And can I add to that?
Sure
I would
can.
say the good, bad, because you have you're talking, there's a lot of talking going on and they're listening to everything you're saying and remembering everything that you're saying to the, one saying this, the other one saying that, and it's
Right.
a lot of information. And if you're one person, they're two, they're remembering everything that you're saying.
Right.
And there's a lot of talk going on.
Right. The key on that, Vanessa, is if you choose one, if you bank on the wrong horse, so to speak, you're going to lose. And you'll probably lose them as clients because the one who you've been ignoring is going to get angry.
Mhm.
Just go, look, I don't know what your deal is, but
Yeah.
there's two of us here that are making the decision. I feel like all you're doing is listening to only one. Okay, so you want to be able to make sure that you create even waters along the way. Okay, who else?
Hey, Peter, I was looking at the nibbling example. I think you could potentially leverage in that situation, it's the buyer, leverage the buyer's fear of losing the deal by saying, hey, listen, we just gave you a major concession. There's 3 or 4 other great offers that we have that are, sitting in backup that would be willing to take this, and maybe playing that kind of card so that they say, okay, you know what, we don't want to blow this. We got a big part of what we wanted here. Let's leave it alone.
Okay, but remember I said be legit. If a buyer turns around and says, I want to see these other offers, you can say no, right? But what I'll do on a Zoom is I'll just hold up the front page and go, here's the front page of the contract. So I'm not going to show you the rest because I'm not giving away all the terms, but if you don't believe we have other offers, here they are. Okay, who else? Come on. Let's get one more person. Zara, you want to take a shot at that? No. Okay. Let's move on then, because you've prepared, now you have to position. Okay, you have to position it to know where you're going to find your common ground and where you're going to be butting heads. Okay, and again, don't sweat the small stuff. Keep the big picture items, the larger picture in play, because you want to get to the finish line with a closed deal. You want to be able to get it done. So you've got to be able to ask the hows and whats and whys so you fully understand where the other side's at. And yeah, there are times where I'll ask the listing agent, so what's really important to your seller? Everything. My guy's really tough, but everything. Okay, so what are we potentially looking at? So I think that's where we have to kind of juggle things and go, okay, I get it, blah, 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 blah. So you've got to be able to do that. You need to be positioning yourself in the process, because your body language or your lack of confidence or overconfidence is gonna play good or bad. That's why I say a lot of times you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you just have to figure out which is the part that's really going to work for me versus what's not going to. Okay, because there comes the time where you just might have to walk away. You're not going to find common ground. What the must-haves for your side are the no-haves for them. So you really do have to take your time and say, okay, we're going to walk from here if things don't improve over time. So I think the fact that we're going that way is really important to make that happen. Any questions? Now that I've said you potentially have to make the recommendation that you're going to walk away, I know you've worked really hard, but if it's not going to happen, why just keep stretching things out that aren't going to necessarily happen? How do you guys feel about that? Yep, Les?
Question. So when you walk away, what happens to the earnest money deposit if if the contingencies are still there? Do they get it back?
As long as contingencies are in place, they'll get their entire deposit back. And that's key, because the day that the contingency period's up, you have to sometimes look at your client and go, are you sure? Well, yeah, I think I'm sure. Okay, so you've got to be able to take a look and go, okay, where am I at with this?
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, really important. Okay, because then on your turn, when you start positioning how you're thinking, you've got to create the whole scenario for the other agent that's representing the other principal as well. Why? Come on, somebody give me an answer on here.
Sorry, do you
One more
mean
time, Peter? Sorry.
Well, the question comes down to here is, when you're positioning your position and you're giving, and you're discussing with the other side, potentially the other agent, you've got to tell him what's really important for your guy or gal or couple or family versus what the seller or the other side keeps trying to jam down you. So you've got to give the scenario of how you see this happening. And yeah, there are some agents out there who say, don't tell me what to do. Yet, there you are telling them, look, I need you to go back to your seller. This is our best and final. We don't want to blow this. And more importantly, you guys don't want to start over from scratch, do you? So, that's where you get to go on that. Know your roles, stay in your lane, make sure that you both fully understand what you're up against. Okay? It's that important. Anyone have an aha moment from the last couple of days that they can think about? Anyone have anything good happen over the last couple of days? No one's had anything good?
I had a listing appointment.
How'd it go?
I think it went well. I'm supposed to follow up with them today. I sent the contract to them. Going to follow up, and they had two other agents that they were looking at, and so I just need to follow up and see what their decision is going to be.
Okay. How much?
But it felt good.
How much?
For the home,
Yeah.
it should be about 710.
Wow. Good. Where?
Sorry, could you say that one more time?
Where's the house?
It's in my farm
Okay.
in Reseda.
Okay. Good. Very good. Congrats. Fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
All right, so
Jason,
now-
how did you get that listing appointment? Was it cold calling?
Door knocking.
Nice.
Door knocking's been like really good for me.
Is that because more people are home than normal because of COVID?
I think so. I mean, every door that I knock on, someone answers almost. I would say 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Jason, does anyone give you grief about like going to their house because it's COVID or no?
I've had a few people give me grief. I had a couple of people slam the door in my face, but overall, not too bad.
All right.
Talk about that experience, because that's an aha moment.
Yeah, the door slamming was kind of weird. I essentially just had a flyer that I was passing out, and I was telling them I was interested in finding out if they might be interested in selling their home. And the guy told me that he was planning to die in his home, and then just slammed the door in my face.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Peter, I kind of had an aha moment recently.
Go ahead. Let me know.
So on the weekend, I was meeting up with some old. It was where I used to work at. It was my old manager's birthday party, and they invited me. And then
Great.
one thing that kind of shifted is that every time I go out now, I try to change my mentality from like hanging out to like prospecting mode, and just like doing it casually. And
Yep.
everywhere I go now, like if I'm going to the gym or if I'm going out somewhere, like I'm trying to make that mental shift from, don't look at it as just like, because normally sometimes I don't really like gatherings either, but I'm trying to force myself to be like, oh, there's new people, just look at it like that. And then yeah, that's one thing that's pretty new to me. And it's weird. I thought it was gonna be more weird or awkward than it was bringing up that I was in real estate, but a lot of them were actually, oh, that's good for you, and you know what I mean. And I don't know, like I guess a lot of my expectations of what was gonna go wrong were more in my head, and then so far in the short amount of time, there's been pretty positive experiences. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. Any hits off of it, just having that matter of fact casual conversations?
Like the nothing said. I did have one. I have like an old coworker saying that he was trying to planning on buying a house, and him and his wife were looking at some houses a few months back, but
Mm-hmm.
they saw that the prices were like really high, so then they're gonna stop on that. So then I told him that like I actually know him pretty well, and I haven't caught up with him in a while, so I said, well, why don't we meet up sometime this week and just grab some coffee, catch up, and then from there, I was just kind of thinking of just casually saying, "Oh, so what about all of
Awesome.
that?" And just going venturing
Awesome.
into that conversation.
Awesome. Awesome. Great fucking job. Excuse my French. Great job. That is exactly what I've been hoping somebody would say they did, where they got it. Now, let me ask you this, and please be on. Well, you're very honest. So, did you feel awkward when you first approached your friends about and indirectly asking for business or talking? Was it a little uncomfortable? Because I remember when we started, you were very concerned about transitioning from the paint business into real estate, right? We had that
Yeah,
conversation. Okay, so here you are now, almost a month later, with a completely different outlook, personality. This was great, Lionel. Absolutely great. I couldn't have done it better myself. So my question to you for the group is, did you, if you'll share, was there any awkwardness potentially asking people that you've known for years from the paint business, hey, I'm now a real estate agent, I need your help, or I want your business? Even though you might not have come out and said it, they know exactly when you're talking the talk where your mindset is, right?
yeah.
Any awkwardness at all on your part or hesitation once you start letting it fly?
Uh, no, like the reason why is just like a lot. It's kind of weird. So like the first few times when I would reach out to people and I would ask directly, like that was
Yeah.
my intention. Like it would feel a little bit awkward. But then like I've tried a different strategy where rather than ask them directly, I would kind of like, hey, say, so how's it going? And then kind of like build like a casual rapport, and then but like make sure it leads to the real estate conversation. So then
Right.
that way it feels like it's flowing naturally. And then when I go with that mentality, I don't feel weird about asking for the business because it just kind of happen naturally, as opposed to like say like I called an old friend, I'm like, hey, so I'm in real estate now, and then that kind of felt like a little bit like uncomfortable. But like the other conversations where I was just kind of like shooting the shit, and then it just kind of came up. Those feel like super comfortable.
I'm giving you 2 thumbs up, bro. Awesome. Great job. So as we start getting, as more and more people are getting vaccinated or more and more people are feeling comfortable about going out, anyone else have a similar kind of situation? Even if it was a family gathering or a party or a birthday, kid's birthday party. Anyone else encounter what Lionel kind of got going on over the past week or so? And where you found yourself changing and saying, God, there's people, first of all, there's human beings out in the same area with you. Because, look, we've been locked up. And, I admit it, I started a Zoom on Sunday nights from 5 to 8 with my brother and some other relatives, but mainly really good old time friends, where we sit around and we talk sports and we have wine or beer or cocktails, all Zooming. And the conversation last night turned to real estate. And one of my friends from Orange County said, dude, he goes, I'm thinking about buying an apartment building. Will you come down here and work with me? Oh, did I tell you that he's got a $10 million budget? So I think y'all know what my answer was. So I'm watching Vanessa, Jessica, Marina, Jason, Azar. You're all smiled when I said, that's how it works though. Okay. That's how it works. Sometimes people just let it, like I had said, oh, I was out showing property early this afternoon. And of course, my brother being the wisest goes, well, did you sell anything? And I said, no. I said, unfortunately, the master bedroom didn't have its own private bathroom. Otherwise, this young couple loved it and was right up there, But, indirectly, my brother did me a favor because it allowed us to talk. And I happen to know these two very substantial attorneys in the OC, and they're going to go and, they're looking to start their own little mini syndicate. So, Luz, you had a similar situation? Because I'm watching you nod.
Yes.
By the
So
way,
I've started.
I like the glasses, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I've started going to coffee shops with a few of my girlfriends, and they've asked me how's it going, and I start talking real estate. I get super excited. So, like I'm not shy of asking. They're like, "Well, that's great. How can we help?" I'm like, "Well, sell your house."
Or do you know somebody? Or do you know
Right.
somebody?
Right. So they're helping me out. I've gave them business cards. One of them owns a restaurant, so she'll have like business cards as people are walking in now. But I've been talking to my neighbor. She doesn't live there,
Okay.
and she's still not sure if she wants to sell her house or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I refer her to my CPA because she had questions about her tax implications if she sells.
Right.
So far they spoke on Friday, and I spoke with my CPA and I asked him, so do I have a client, right?
Right.
But he's not sure because she's had the home for many, many years.
Mhm.
But at least I feel that I've helped her in a way where, hopefully she's going to think of me
Right.
if she does
Right.
decide to list. And
Mhm.
I just don't want to pressure her, but I think I'm going to call her today and just kind of hear her out, and then let her be in hopes that, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, do you think that should be my approach? I don't want to bug her,
Well,
but I do want to know what her plan is.
first of all, I'm giving you a huge thumbs up for staying in your lane and not trying to be a tax expert.
Right.
You gave the perfect, solid advice by telling them to talk to a CPA. Too often we all say, well, I can answer that. Even me, 22 years into this business, I will sometimes say, well, you can blah, 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 this or that. And then I find myself going, oh, shoot, if they interpret it the wrong way, they're going to pivot and come back to me, because they're never wrong. But, it's always easy to blame. So how do I think you handled it? I think you handled it beautifully. And I think when you segue back into it, they'll tell you.
Okay.
So, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is absolutely I want to sell. The bad news is I can't do it until the end of the summer. And we've got to be careful right now because the new administration is talking about really jamming capital gains.
Right.
So, for those of us that have a lot of equity in our home, we have to look out. So, and it's something that I've been speaking to my CPA for a couple of years now, and also my real estate attorney, my personal real estate attorney, in that I know what we paid for our house, and then when we knocked it down and rebuilt it and double the size, the price has quadrupled or more so than when we first bought the house. So I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to potentially do something and then boom, it turns back to smack us in the proverbial butt. But no, Luz, you're on the right path. Good job.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take one. Anyone else before we move on?
Yeah, I went to a birthday party on Wednesday.
Okay.
And I don't know. I made some pens with my name and the number and the agency. So I was just giving it to the girl. It was more just females. And one of the girls was looking at the pen. She goes, "What is it?" Well, I said, "This is my pen. I'm with a realtor." And she goes, "Oh, we're starting to look for a condo to buy." So I give her my card.
Beautiful.
So yeah, now
how did you? Let me ask you though. Sorry to interrupt you. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Let me ask you a question. You're at a social gathering with a bunch of other moms, right?
It's my best friend's. Yeah, it's basically moms. Yeah.
Okay. So my question is here. Did you feel a little awkward taking a social festive party or gathering and just sprinkling a little business on it, or were you fine doing that, Marina?
I was just fine about it. I was fine, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Because most of them know that what I am because I posted it on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And I joined Keller Williams, and so
Okay, make sure you keep your Facebook church and state. Have your
Yes.
personal one.
Mhm.
Talk to that.
Yeah.
Is it Milan? Is that right?
I go by my middle name, Sigal.
Sigal. I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to. Okay, Sigal, what do you got? This
So
is great. I love these things.
I started door knocking, which I thought I was terrified to do, and I was very hesitant, but I started last week and I absolutely love it. And I, I've, I've had my other business for 26 years, so I'm never shy to give out my cards. And I'm actually preparing to sponsor my son's rugby team.
Oh,
Everybody,
very cool. Very cool. What's your business for 26 years, if you don't mind me asking?
no, not at all. I'm a professional photographer. I also shoot real estate, portraits, product. So I have actually been emailing my photography clients because some of them are with me since I moved here over 20 years ago. And I've been telling them I'm now a realtor. And I've been calling them, and I have been.
If I can make a slight suggestion, you're obviously highly incredibly successful for you after 26 years. You might want to talk to Dan and ask if you can speak at the next team meeting and offer your services and maybe offer some kind of a, KW ESO discount.
I would love that. Actually, Whitney reached out to me in regards to shooting everybody's headshots because I do studio photography as well, so I can bring my studio. And you can look at my website, which I'll put at the chat box. And
Yeah, put that up on the chat. Great idea. So that's awesome. But, don't be afraid from your past life. I mean, I don't know Lionel who needs paint in the office, but if somebody does, I'll count you in on it. But yeah, Sigal, by all means, please put up on the chat your website, because I just think it's awesome. And people love to help other people, especially when they're getting going and moving forward. Okay, so guys, I'll see you at studiosigal.com.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm always looking for good people. I have somebody I've used now for 15 years, but he's getting married and his future wife is taking him in a little bit of a different direction. So I'm always looking for new vendors, I mean, you never know. So, okay. So you're putting it all together. You've got your action plan done. You know how you want to be able to lead in. Make sure that you're buttoned up. Please, please, please don't negotiate, don't present, don't prepare half-ass. It is a direct reflection on you. And I will tell you this, I get sloppy paperwork, or when I have somebody who's trying to tell me that they're smarter than me, okay, or that they know more than me, it's a huge turnoff. So take the half step back, present well, prepare well, speak well, but listen more. Okay, you will learn more listening than just wah, 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 wah. Like Charlie Brown on that one part of those cartoons. Wah, 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 wah. If you listen, they'll lead you to the promised land. Okay, I'm dealing right now on one of my deals with a very difficult agent, very difficult. And it's one of those where I told you, when I see her name pop up on my screen, like, oh, now what? And she has zero filter, by the way. She reached out to me yesterday morning on a Sunday at 7:30 in the morning. Okay, I'm usually 24/7, 7 days a week, but not her. And I put her on ice until almost 11 o'clock. And when she told me why she was calling, I said, so 7:30 in the morning, she goes, so you saw me calling? I said, oh yeah, I had my phone already next to me. She goes, why don't you pick up? I said, because I saw it was you. I said, and now I'm glad I didn't, because you would have put me in the worst mood for the rest of the day. So at least I'm transparent. At least, I mean, if anything, look, I've said it to you guys before, I'll say it again. 22 years later, I'm about to get a deal, my adrenaline still rushes. It still goes. You're all going to do that. Okay. So I want you to all focus. How do I make myself, present myself, propose myself the best professionally? I'll say it again and again. You're only as good as your word. You're only as good as your reputation. Okay, my wife and I were out to dinner on Saturday night in Beverly Hills, and there was a table of 3 commercial agents that I recently did a deal with last year. And he came over to the table and he goes, you know what? He goes, to Deb, he goes, your husband was great. We closed it. It was difficult. He goes, my client was a total ass. He goes, his buyer was okay, but we got it done. We worked together. I know you represent one principle, okay? But when it's all said and done, yes, you're partnering with either your buyer or seller, but you're merging, not marrying, you're merging your efforts with the other agent. They're going to either make or break you having fun or not. Because, you know, I want it to be, that was the easiest deal I've done in a year, to, God, I really earned every penny of this. Okay, and you're going to all feel it. And I only hope that in a couple of years, a couple of you email me, text me, call me and say, you were right. I worked harder for this one and didn't enjoy it, but thank God it got closed and I got paid. Okay, any questions? Okay, so for Wednesday, I'm going to go off script the entire hour. The only thing that I request for you, you can have the script, the chapter. Please have in front of you a blank sheet of paper. Blank sheet, because we're going to fill it in. Because as I promised you on Friday, I'm going to take you from writing an offer and take you step by step to how we do a deal here in the state of California. Okay, and I won't miss anything. And you guys can stop me. You can, you know, it's one of the most fun classes that I do, because it's unlike anything anyone else teaches in Ignite. And you're going to get more out of it because you're going to understand every step of the way how we go and how we do things. Okay. Any last questions before we check off for the day?
What time is the class on Wednesday?
So they all start at 11.
Okay.
And on this one, I will tell you, I'm going to start promptly, because I will talk pretty much the entire session. Whereas, you know, I try and get you guys mingling and talking. This one's going to really be me, and you're going to be asking questions. I'm going to rapid fire back, but we're going to move through, because I'm going to cram in 1 hour what normally takes 30 days minimum.
I might
Okay.
have to watch on YouTube. I have an appointment with Laura's title.
Okay.
I can't wait.
All right, guys. Have a great Monday and Tuesday. I'll see you all Wednesday morning, and we're almost done. Okay. So have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.